Well, greetings and welcome.
Divine Creator, we ask that the light of highest awareness fill the minds and hearts of those who are open to your light. We ask that they be assisted and strengthened in their resolve to achieve peace using peaceful means. May their minds, their hearts, and their actions reflect the divine will to good for all. Comfort, strengthen, and support those who are in a difficult situation in their mind, body, or spirit. Bring confidence to them that your divine hand is at work in their life. Amen.
Well, good evening. My name is Reverend Mary Huber. I'm pastor of the Community Chapel of Holistic Healing. And this evening we will begin a little bit differently, but I first want to start the evening with our usual prayers that we always say, and this is the Faith, Hope, and Charity affirmation. These can be found on our website and will be there all the time. You can download them. And they're very powerful channelings that were given to us by Michelle Luson, our founder, who started the organization in 1977. Our faith affirmation. I believe in the spiritual existence of myself as a perfect image of the divine creator. In this reflection that is my physical embodiment, I have faith in the supreme guidance of my soul for my balance, my needs, and my opportunities. Outside of myself, there are also perfect images, and nothing can delude my thinking otherwise. The hope affirmation. Acknowledging my faith in the omnipresence of my divinity, I hope for realization, awareness, and acknowledgement of the existence of the great I am within myself. And charity affirmation. In understanding faith, in knowing hope, I pledge my actions, my desires, and my thoughts to the performances of myself on the physical planes of the earth, to honor, to love, and to enlighten all that is a reflection of the divine outside myself, so that my perfection is imaged back to my Creator. So help me God. There's another centering prayer that might be useful for us this evening, because I'd like everybody to understand and to know that this is part of getting into the meditation. The affirmation for centering. Every pattern of my being is perfect. Every cell of my flesh is perfect. Every thought of my mind is in tune with the perfection of my Creator. That is of an illusionary nature cannot live, dwell, or exist in my life, because I wish oneness with my divine right to exist. So be it. And now we'll go to the meditation. Seated comfortably and taking your deep breaths, because this always brings the relaxation response into the body. I'd like you to breathe deeply. And if you will image, bringing in the light from the higher realms, and as though you were breathing that light in to the lungs, and you are then on the exhalation distributing it to the rest of your body. You are filling yourself with light. With each breath, you become more relaxed. And with each breath, you become lighter and lighter. Now, from this beautiful place of the relaxation. You can let go now. Let go and take a imagination. Take your imagination with you now to bring yourself within, into realms within you that are beautiful and bright. And we could use the imagery of a trip from your place where you are now. See that there is a vehicle waiting for you, that you can exit your place in your mind's eye and go down and get into that vehicle for this beautiful trip that you are about to take. And as you enter the vehicle, you notice the day is beautiful, the breeze is light, the sun is shining, and the temperature is ambient. And roll down the window on the vehicle that you're in so that the breeze can hit your face and you can continue to take those beautiful breaths, and you're journeying along. And you come to a place where you can get on a different vehicle if necessary, to go to a place where you really love to be. You might find yourself in a metaphor of going to the seashore. And even though it may or may not be your favorite place, there's a great symbology there for you. And so you allow this vehicle to take you to the shore, to a beach of your choice, where it is again this gorgeous day. And as you exit the vehicle, you see that you're very close to the beach and can just simply walk into the sand. And you notice that there is the nice warmth and the sand beneath your feet, and it is a very enjoyable weather experience. From this place, as you're seated and very relaxed, a companion joins you. Someone who is going to travel with you. And as you greet them, you realize that you will now be traveling by boat or ship, whatever your vehicle will be, on the seas, on the high sea. You're going to be on the ocean. And you board this vehicle, this vessel, and look around and see what type of vessel it is. And you and your companion settle in for the trip. And you are now comfortable because it's very steady and very lovely, smooth experience. And as you're lying on the deck, looking up from your lounge seat, the sun might begin to be setting and the stars are coming out. And you look up at this beautiful sky. The stars are so close. It is so perfect. And you have that feeling of great joy, knowing that you can say, I am the light. I am an instrument of peace. I am hope where there is despair. I am forgiveness. I am a son of God. I am one with the universe. All of this is yours because that deep connection with earth and space, with inner and outer, is easy to experience. I am one with all of the divine beings in the universe. I am one with my fellow man. All is well, and all manner of things shall be well. It's peaceful. And now the ship or the vehicle of whatever choice is that you are in is coming to a distant land. And you will disembark now. And I will give you time to explore this distant land. And the beauty of this land is unparalleled. And your companion with you has assisted you in every way so that you can be comfortable, so that you can be that in tune person with your divine self, so that you can travel this land and any land in love and in peace and in harmony with your true nature. Now you have arrived back at the place where you disembarked. And there are packages you're bringing back from this land, different sizes, different shapes. All are yours. All are filled with treasures, great treasures. And as you sink back into your chair on the deck, surrounded by your packages, with your companion next to you, You thank God for this privilege of having this ability to go and gather within yourself the special gifts that you are now bringing back across the water on the journey back. The smooth voyage continues, and you arrive back at your shore. You disembark, and you travel across the land, the sea, the place where you were, to your home. You come back by the same vehicle you traveled in to get there. And you arrive at your front door, enter your house, and go back to the seat that you are now occupying. Remember to bring the gifts with you, because they are yours to open at your leisure and discover more of yourself when you do this. And I now remember that I am the light, I am the way, I am the truth, I am one with Christ and all the loving beings who ever have existed in any universe. And so it is. And so you return now slowly to your conscious everyday mind and return here. And we'll begin. With a little talk about the journey you've taken, perhaps or not, but that is part of your everyday spiritual life. Certainly meditation is one of those spiritual exercises that allow you to become in touch with deeper levels of yourself. Now, the spiritual in everyday life might sound like a nice notion to some people, and maybe even be kind of vague, but you realize that you have to realize more about your own nature, because you're actually in your spiritual space at all times. You don't have to go to church or have a special place or be led by a special person to get there, because you are the living spirit of your Creator. Your Creator placed you where you are, and you are also meant to be a creator. Because I'll remind you of the biblical statement, you were made in the image and likeness of God. We have a corresponding simple statement of truth in our faith affirmation, if you remember, where it says, I believe in the spiritual existence of myself as a perfect image of the divine Creator. That's faith. So here we are really saying that as God creates, we too, as perfect images at the level of our I am presence or our soul, that level is the perfect level of ourselves, but we are also creators. And how does that manifest? Because we're human. Well, in a million ways, which you don't even notice. You create your own life, thought by thought, desire by desire. This is how your life flows. And after all, this is the greatest creation, at least in this universe, that of being a human being. And in doing that, making something better out of it. So let's take a look at an individual. You're not a roll of the dice. Your life was created with exquisite planning. Your soul determined what it needed to experience so that it could make significant spiritual advancement. And the creation process goes on constantly. However, you will no doubt find people saying, I don't have any special talent at all. Look at the people who have all of these marvelous gifts and doing all these wonderful things. But remember, since you're not a roll of the dice, you might see yourself more like the luxury automobile with the expression that comes with that. And it says, you come in fully loaded with all of the bells and whistles. You have as many strengths as you need to overcome the weaknesses that you have. This is why the saying goes, God never gives you more than you can handle. God is pure love and created you and me as an act of love. You are a complete work of art as far as God is concerned. People acknowledge the fact, those who question all of this about the spiritual nature and how pure and everything, they never question the fact that DNA is a unique, very uniquely theirs, and they can be picked out of the entire population of the world as being this particular person because of their unique DNA. Well, it's the same thing spiritually. As above, so below. It's you're one of a kind, a designer model. So since you have that designation as a unique creation, you can see that uniqueness lends itself to being expressed as well. So as you discover more and more about yourself and pay more attention to who you really are, this self-discovery will lead you to new fields, new ventures, new solutions, and actually a happier life. Every day, people with no particular claim to talent do interesting and sometimes strange things on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and now the kids are into something called Be Real, communicating that way. It just requires imagination. And people have plenty of imagination. And it's just a question of believing that some of those imaginative thinking can be yours and you can do something with them. So even though small steps have to be taken, it's important that people express creativity, because the creativity that comes from the soul needs to express. And there is actually a physical problem that can happen when you're meant to express something creatively and it doesn't come through because the person is blocking it. What will happen is that the creative process in the body, the great manifester of creativity is the solar plexus. That's the one that goes out and manifests who you are. And if that gets blocked, this creates significant physical problems, because the soul's message is create. I gave you this message. I told you you can do these things. They don't look like so grand a thing, but it's important that you do them. And people have to feel free, give themselves permission to go ahead and take some of the little leaps that they need to make. It gives you a sense of joy and being fulfilled when you actually do this. So I know there are all kinds of creations, but of course, when you're doing something that benefits and uplifts, so that's the higher order of creation. And as you go through life and you discover more and you take few more chances, it doesn't have to be anything in particular that somebody else would recognize as a creative process. It's just something that you've noticed that you can do. It might be putting two things together that weren't together before, but you noticed it. It has to do with a little bit of a initiative and a little bit of imagination, and it becomes just beautiful. You don't have to paint great paintings or do movies and, those kind of things that mean something creative. When people say, I can't paint or I can't do this. This is not what we're talking about. Be who you are and do the beautiful things that you can do. Set a beautiful table, decorate a house, find new ways to take care of a pet, do some teaching, express your love in many different ways. But you can also do painting and writing and composing and so on. It's not out of that realm at all. But whatever you feel important that you share is important that you do share it. It's important for your soul. And frankly, it's important for your body as well. So here I have someone to share with you this evening. She is a friend of mine. I've invited her to come and talk about some of her ways that she expresses herself. She does poetry. She personally does not consider her that even anything extraordinary, but my goodness, is she creative and has an awful lot to share. Carol Ann resides in Pennsylvania, but has spent a good portion of her life here in DC and has been part of CCWH for many years, goes way back. So welcome, Carol Ann Heckman. Thank you for coming. So good to have you.
Good to be here, Mary.
Great. I've admired your work over time. I've heard some of your work as well, but I think your journey has been really interesting. And I think, people would be interested in, how did you begin? Where did you first start writing poetry? Do you have a memory of that?
Well, actually, and I just want to thank you for that beautiful meditation and sharing. I would have to say it began with my mother, and my mother loved nursery rhymes. She would sing lullabies when I was little girl, read stories. And so I developed a love of words through what my mother shared. And also in terms of actually writing, I was blessed to have an English teacher who encouraged me to write poetry, and encouraged me by giving me extra points for writing poems. And it was probably the one thing in my life at the time when I was in my teens that I felt was of value, because it was a time of struggling. And I wanted to just share when you asked me to do this, Mary, that you wanted to emphasize the importance of creativity. And I'm seeing on the screen the two sources that have been very, very rich for me, and that echo a lot of what you said about creativity. The Care of the Soul by Thomas More. And folks out there that are tuning in or that hear this chapel service later may be of interest if they're not familiar with it. But Thomas More says in The Care of the Soul, soul thrives as we jot down a thought in our diary or note a dream and give body to a slight influx of eternity. Our notebooks then truly become our own private gospels and sutras, our holy books, and our simple paintings truly serve as icons, every bit as significant in the work of our own soul as the wonderful icons of the Eastern churches are for their congregations. And this statement jumped out too when he says, to the soul, memory is more important than planning, art more compelling than reason, and love more fulfilling than understanding. And in terms, Mary, of what you were saying about you don't have to go outside of yourself for creativity. It's part of you. The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, I worked with for many years. I have numerous copies of it. A spiritual path to higher creativity for anyone. She says, no matter what your age or life path, whether making art is your career or your hobby or your dream, it is not too late or too egotistical or too selfish or too silly to work on your creativity. In short, the theory doesn't matter as much as the practice itself does. What you are doing is creating pathways in your consciousness through which the creative forces can operate. Once you agree to clearing these pathways, your creativity emerges. In a sense, your creativity is like your blood, just as blood is a fact of your physical body and nothing you invented. Creativity is a fact of your spiritual body and nothing you must invent. So her exercises in the Artist's Way are really helpful. In fact, I started working with it decades ago and found myself taking theater classes, doing photography, drawing. I had originally thought I was doing it for writing, but it opens up all kinds of blooming of different aspects of creativity. So speaking of blooming, I wanted to share some poems, some simple poems that came to mind to share this evening. And I came upon this quote that I love by Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese Buddhist master teacher, who is also a poet. And he says, a poem is a flower you offer to people. A compassionate look, a smile, an act filled with loving kindness is also a flower that blooms on the tree of mindfulness and concentration. And he talks about everything you're doing in your life, whether you're gardening or cooking or caring for your child or just talking to a neighbor. It all goes into the ingredients of the poem when it finally appears. The first poem, Thanks, I had been displaced from my home in 2011 by a historic flood in my hometown. And I received a lot of help during that time, and especially the Area Agency for Aging. And I wanted to do something after I got resettled and so forth after that experience to say thank you. And so what I did was I volunteered to do a poetry circle at a senior citizen center in my original hometown. And this poem was one of the poems that called to me to take for the poetry circle. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little morning glory there, a little photograph. I love morning glories, and I had them all over my growing up, my porch and everything. And so it's just a simple, the attitude of gratitude gives one a lot of latitude. When you say thanks for what you've got, it seems you've got an awful lot. I know it's kind of rhymey, but it kind of went back to my mother and her nursery rhymes too. And the next poem, Prayer, also has a theme of gratitude. I enjoyed drawing the little iris, the little stylized irises on the card. I enjoyed making these little, what I call pocket poems that I just was moved to give people to try to lift their spirits whenever it would occur to me. So the prayer, and I found this poem in one of my journals. I really encourage people to keep journals. I do a lot of journal writing. I have for many years, do a lot of process writing, clarify feelings, and different times I'll go back even years later and I'll say, wow, look, here's a poem. I didn't even realize I wrote it. That's happened quite a bit. So this prayer is, I'll offer this little flower poem to you. 4 blue irises in a glass, pure. I didn't ask, who gave them? What for? My tired eyes kept seeking each green and graceful stem, wherever they came from. I am thankful for them. And when I saw that in my journal, it gave me some energy. Flowers, irises, all kinds of flowers speak and give such wonderful energy. So on to the next poem. Now these poems were written in 2016. And the first poem was actually written later than the one on the right, the time poem. The presence poem, I was participating in a silent retreat at the Jesuit Center in Wernersville, Pennsylvania, which is now permanently closed. But the retreat I was attending was about praying with feminine images of God. And I had an experience while I was there. I overslept for one session. And I got to the door, the session had already started. I could hear people talking inside. And it was about female images of God. And it took some courage to open that door, because when I was years ago in kindergarten, I got punished for being late getting back from the lavatory as a little kid. And I was smaller than the other children. And so I feel like Spirit helped me open that door to the retreat session. And I went in and the room was filled with light. And the spiritual director motioned a seat for me to take. And it was so gracious to be welcomed into that room. And I made the association of every room is a womb. This Zoom session is actually a womb for something to be born. And this little poem came out of that experience, that now I am held in the womb of your grace. Here in this place, I am home. Everywhere is home. You're always in some kind of room, which is God's womb. And you're always home. And that's what I got from that poem. The last poem that I was moved to share is somewhat different than these pocket poems that I shared. It's called Safe Passage. And yeah, there it is. Oh, I like how you set up that graphic. Very nice. And I have to tell you too, when I had that experience of being displaced from my home in 2011 in the flood, as I was going through the recovery from that, different poems that I had written over my lifetime came to me to comfort me. And I thought, wow, they're like little ministers or little counselors. And it occurred to me that that everything that comes through you as a creation has a life of its own. Certainly mothers know this. Their children have a life of their own. And everything that's created has an energy and has a life of its own. And what I discovered, because I have been invited to speak and read poems in public, is that the poems will tell me that they want to be shared. They want their moment to share and give their energy and give their message. So these poems wanted to come here tonight the Safe Passage poem is a bit different. My dear Aunt Dorothy had passed away after a lifetime of suffering from polio. She always had a lot of courage. She was very involved with all of the family and in her community. She started her own business. I mean, she was an amazing person. And her sister, my aunt, called and said, would you write a poem for Dorothy's memorial service? And I said, well, that's not really how I write. And, I heard myself whining. And I said to my aunt, if something wants to come through me to be shared, I'm willing. And as soon as I hung up the phone, I started receiving this poem. And so I feel in my heart that my Aunt Dorothy certainly had a lot to do with this, that there was such a joy that came through with this poem. And I have to say, this poem has been shared a lot. People have told me it's given them comfort in terms of the loss of a loved one. And I also realized, reading the poem years later, after it was written, that it's about transition of any kind, not just about transition from life to death or life to life, another life. It's any transition. It could be about the transition we all went through with the pandemic. We were in one world. We knew one reality. We're in a whole different reality now that's still unfolding. So, Safe Passage. Love speaks your name. Love holds your hand. Safe passage, dear. Safe passage. Across the dark, love brings you home. Safe passage, cherished one. Long years of pain are done. Triumphant soul, O valiant heart, your freedom has been won. And we who bless you now, your love within our hearts, recall with praise your strength and grace and faith that taught this truth. Whatever you face, be not afraid, for love will carry you. Love will carry you. Love will carry you through. Well, I again want to thank CCWH and Pastor Mary for this invitation. I hope all of you that have tuned in or will tune in the future, I hope you do well with whatever form your own creative efforts take. And again, bless you and thank you. And I'm going to end with my little Tibetan bell, which I love.
Lovely. Gosh, thank you so much, Carol, for those lovely poems and your lovely experiences that you had with them. I think that's a wonderful tribute to creativity that you've created, and an encouraging for anyone who wants to go further with their own ideas. And while we have a lot of our own repertoire, I think we would like you to know that the talent and creativity that belongs to anybody in this organization, certainly I invite you to come and share some of that with us, because like Carol, there's an awful lot left unsaid by many people who could do a little bit more sharing. So the positive aspects of life are found within each individual. And remembering that each has a Christ consciousness within, and all of the help that we could possibly need is found there. Some people express joy and creativity easily, and some need a little time or a little encouragement to discover it. And that's their journey, and the journey is certainly worth it, because it is the nature of the soul to keep evolving You keep experiencing, and in order to grow, that's how it happens. Now, if you want to see more of the poetry, or if you want a copy of anything, you can contact Carol Ann about the poem through us, through CCWH, email request to make that contact at info@ccwh.com. And we will pass on your inquiry to her, and she will get in touch with you. So that would be a nice connection. If you liked anything, then you would like her to send you a copy if that is available at all. So we'd love to hear from people who are listening to this as well. If you have any questions or comments, you can also write to the same email address of info@ccwh.com, and we will see that and respond to you. Now, I hope you found our website, www.ccwh.com. You can find more information about us there, our next chapel services and other events that we have. And hopefully you will also find that there is a donate button there, and maybe you can share something with us. We are a nonprofit organization and a spiritual fellowship. All ministers are volunteers and receive no fees for any services that are provided. So we would also hope that you might consider being a member of our group, and where you might want to expand your own talent and creativity with us. I thank my minister engineers who work behind the scenes on all of our chapels, who deal with the slides and other necessary operations to keep us going. Thank you, Brenda McGrath, and thank you, Kelly Welk. So now we finish every chapel service for the past 45 years with the same song, and I'd like to share that with you here. We used to have words. We do have words for it, but we no longer sing them because it's not possible with Zoom to do that. But let there be peace on earth, and maybe you'll remember those words.